So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making time. What I'm going to talk about, I'm not so much going to talk about, in fact, I'm not really going to talk about technology. I'm going to talk about how you can future-proof yourself, and a formula that's taken me 10 years to figure out, and that very much relies on LinkedIn. Is anybody on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Ah, good. Perfect. Okay. All right. So the 7 steps to literally co-creating the future of the industry. I've done this now in 5 industries, and it's a proven formula. So as you can probably hear from my accent, I was born and bred in Germany, divided city of Berlin. I am a historian by trade, and I came out as a lecturer in '94 to the University of KZN, where I discovered the true legacy of Emperor Shaka Zulu and spent 20-odd years researching the innovation strategies of King Shaka and how they apply today. Today I'm teaching innovation, branding, marketing, basically across 3 continents, and I discovered something about 10 years ago that I call the secret of reciprocation. When South Africa had just been awarded the 2010 World Cup, and I had written a book on how Germany won the World Cup of Nation Branding, because you might remember the brand image of Germany before the World Cup 2006 was terrible. It was, Germans were seen to be fairly humorless, unfriendly, almost robotic. And the World Cup changed it overnight, literally overnight. Had a tremendous impact on the brand image of Germany, on how Germans saw each other, and it kickstarted the German economy tremendously. So I wrote this book. I happened to attend the press conference, 2010 press conference, President Beki. He became very interested, and he at that time had just made the promise of hosting the best, in fact, the most successful World Cup ever. And I'm very pleased to say that we did achieve that, because visitors rated South Africa 2010 92% in terms of brand advocacy versus 88% in Germany. So what happened then is that all of a sudden, I wrote 2 books around the World Cup, and then all of a sudden I discovered the secret of reciprocation. Thank you. And then the Business Day invited me to write a weekly column. Carte Blanche did a whole feature, took me to Germany. CNBC Africa signed me on as a resident analyst for 2010 for 3 years. And I happened to have a marketing pipeline for 5 years, where I became very lazy because I didn't have to do any advertising, any marketing, other than basically advocating the World Cup and advocating the brand of the country. And then I discovered something on CNBC, that every time I interviewed somebody, an expert, about their insights into hospitality, into business, into tourism, anything construction related to 2010, it created an amazing bond, and it created a very deep and meaningful relationship, and it created a sense of reciprocation where they wanted to return the favor. So did the brand ambassador program for 2010, a lot of work in the media, and then when 2010 was gone, and my clients were gone, FIFA was gone, the sponsors were obviously going back to their old business. I then remembered the power of the interviews, and then I've been on LinkedIn I started on LinkedIn in 2007, and I got a sense that LinkedIn had actually, as you know, it started off as a recruitment channel. I got a sense that LinkedIn had turned into a marketing platform, a very powerful marketing platform, because obviously you could find many, almost all decision makers on LinkedIn. So I started to get involved in LinkedIn, and I started to develop a system that I've been teaching to especially IT companies, financial companies, professional services companies, on how to use LinkedIn to build your brand and grow your business. And then I integrated the interviews, where I went out and interviewed experts in their field, and I started off with a Future Leadership Forum about leadership, the insights into the future of leadership. And people always ask me, what is the purpose of doing these interviews? This is really the purpose. This is really about facilitating conversations and providing role models and collecting stories of inspiration, It's a series where I interview leaders, I turn the interviews into a book, and I host a summit. And then out of these came a number of initiatives where we're co-creating the Future Leader Blueprint, we're running innovation labs, we're co-creating the curriculum for future leaders in schools, hosting the awards. And then this started about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago. And then all of a sudden, I got some very prominent leaders on the platform. You might recognize this lady. Anybody who was following the World Cup? President of Croatia. She was very visible in her support of the Croatian team. And I reached out to her on LinkedIn and am going to interview her on how the World Cup helped nation building the country, rallying the country behind the team. The Prime Minister of Ethiopia, who has done some remarkable work in ending the conflict, the 20-year-old conflict with Eritrea. He's coming on the platform. And most recently, the MEC of Gauteng Finance, Barbara Creasy, who's done really good work in education. So this is why I'm saying this is literally about co-creating the future of your industry. This is really what we're doing. It's not me, it's me just providing a platform for leaders to come on. So it all starts, as I said, with LinkedIn. And the question is obviously, why do you use LinkedIn for co-creating the future? And the reason for that is that really you have a lot of, as you know, executives, you have a lot of leaders, you have a lot of business people, obviously, on LinkedIn. In fact, by now, we have 550 million people on LinkedIn, members. South Africa is the 13th largest country. You can see 5.2 million members, almost 500,000 C-level executives. You have 250,000 business owners, and you have close to 500,000 managers, senior managers in South Africa on LinkedIn. And this is really what has changed by online. The behavior of your buyers has changed dramatically. As you know, 70% of business buyers are influenced about your products, what they see on social media. And this, to me, is a key. 57% of buying decisions are made before they even speak to you. So how is that possible? And this is, business buyers. It's not consumer, business buyers. This is major transaction. How is that possible? How can people make a decision before they even speak to a supplier? Obviously by what they see online. Again, on social media, and LinkedIn plays a major role. And as you know, cold calling doesn't not only work anymore, it probably does more harm to you than any goods. So, I'm just going to give you a couple of insights into the first 3 steps. And it all starts with understanding who is your audience on LinkedIn. Who is it really that you are looking for? Because that determines very much the way you position, the way you communicate, and the way you really understand your audience. Now, you can unlock a whole bunch of parameters on LinkedIn. So, for example, I did a search here on chief marketing officers in the IT industry in the United States for companies with more than 1,000 employees. And here's what I found. For example, Cara Wilson, LinkedIn is telling me where she works. She has a 2nd degree, so she's connected to somebody that I'm connected to. In fact, she and I share 3 connections. Now, why is that important? Why is that important information for me if I want to reach out to Cara?
If you know someone that you can contact, you can contact her.
Exactly. Make an introduction. Exactly. It's a circle, and it is a little bit of trust. LinkedIn also tells me that out of these 727 chief marketing officers, 285 share an experience with me, which means they might have gone to the same school, attended the same university, belong to the same LinkedIn group. Again, why is that important? As you build your network, obviously the commonality is something that does connect you. Again, LinkedIn also tells me that 61 of these 727 people have changed jobs in the last 90 days. Now, this is a very important piece of intel because when especially an executive enters a new job, they're a lot more open to new ideas. And the 174 of these guys posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days which means they're really active, they're engaged on LinkedIn. Now, this is a question that I would like to ask you. Who's your target audience on LinkedIn? If you look at these parameters, if you look at the geography, if you look at the hierarchy, if you look at the industry, if you look at the sort of the company size, who is your target audience on LinkedIn? I'm asking you, Andre?
Well, you are here because of a contact on LinkedIn. We never met before today.
That's right.
LinkedIn brought us together at
That's
this
right.
auspicious occasion.
That's right. Now,
But also, Nick, connected to the, what was it, 200 and something people who changed jobs in the
Yes.
last 90 days.
yes,
Very active people to be part of that circle
absolutely.
because of LinkedIn.
That's right.
And best of all, LinkedIn is not asking you anything for that.
That's right.
You part of the global community.
Global network. And it is a global network. Think about it. I mean, how else do you find people? Let's say you travel to London, you travel to LA, you travel to Paris, doesn't matter where. How else do you find people in a different, even in your own city, especially decision makers? Now, 50% of LinkedIn members go back to the site every day. And there's a reason for that, because LinkedIn, and this is really, let me show you what members are looking for on LinkedIn. They're looking to obviously network with each other, and there's a certain etiquette that you need to understand for effective networking. They're looking to build their own brand. In fact, when people Google your name, when last did you Google yourself? When last did you Google your name? You must know, because people, when do people Google your name? When is it that they do Google? Sorry?
Looking for a job.
Well, absolutely. Before you go to a meeting, before you meet, let's say, a headhunter, and many times before you go for a date. People Google you. And you must know what is on Google, what Google says about you. It's critically important, because the first thing, when you have a complete LinkedIn profile, the first thing that comes up is your LinkedIn profile on Google. That's how important it is. And a lot of people are using LinkedIn to keep up with trends, especially in their industry, because, as you might know, you can follow channels, industry channels on LinkedIn, you can follow influencers like Richard Branson, and it's a fantastic platform to literally keep up to trends. And many people, before they turn to TV or print or radio, they go to LinkedIn. It has become the world's largest publishing platform, which means for you, it's a perfect opportunity for content marketing, for sharing your, and that's really what people are looking for. They're looking for your insights in how can they further their career and their business. And that's very, very important for you. So here's the big question. How are you going to engage, or how are you currently engaging on LinkedIn? Because, as always, 90 to 95% of members are passengers, are passive, they're there, but they're not really contributing. But if you become a contributor, if you start to reach out, if you start to share content, especially to post content, you can actually become a thought leader in a very short period of time. And then that can go a long way. So I really urge you to adopt this mindset. And it has a lot to do with how you proposition your value. What I'm talking about is your LinkedIn profile. And LinkedIn is, please, not ever, never ever, Facebook with a tie. Your LinkedIn presence has to be very, very different. It has to be obviously professional. It has to be visible. And it has to be almost like a New York Times bestseller. Now, you have to spend a lot of time on your LinkedIn profile. You have to make it the masterpiece. What I mean, what's the first thing when people look at your profile, at your book? What's the first thing they see?
Education.
What?
Your education.
The first thing they see is your picture.
Yeah.
Your profile picture. Your profile picture must be perfect. And I'm going to share with you just now what it is that makes a perfect profile picture. The second thing they look at is obviously the headline. And the headline must not be your title. The headline must tell me what it is that you can do for me. then when they turn over your book and they look at the summary, your summary on LinkedIn must be storytelling. In fact, I call it story branding. It must tell your story in a way that it talks to me and it compels me to engage with you, to connect with you, to talk to you. And when I look inside of your LinkedIn bestseller, I must find valuable information on your profile, and I must find these testimonials, recommendations from others that have done business with you. So when you connect with me on LinkedIn, you'll see exactly how I've structured my profile and what I mean. Because this is really what your LinkedIn profile needs to achieve. It needs to get the attention of others. It needs to get them to connect with you, to engage with you. And it needs to give them value and create a sense of reciprocation where they literally want to return the favor. Now, everybody else is doing the exact opposite. Everybody else on LinkedIn, most everybody, is just there to talk about their company, their products and services, and how good they think they are, which, especially online, is totally irrelevant. Because the only thing people want to know about you online is how can you help me? What is it you can do for me? And that your LinkedIn profile has to communicate very clearly. Okay, we've got a few more minutes. So I'm going to share with you what LinkedIn has found. LinkedIn analyzed 60,000 profile pictures. And this is what they found in terms of what makes you look more competent, blue, more likable, yellow, and more influential, green, more or less. So you have to establish eye contact. Please do not wear sunglasses. And you won't believe it. There are people on LinkedIn that do wear sunglasses on their profile picture. If you have eyeglasses, please do wear them because they're going to make you look more competent and more likable. Do not obstruct your eyes. And please do squinch. Squinching makes you look more competent, more likable, and more influential.
What is squinching?
Squinching, let me show you. Anybody knows what squinching means? Normal look, squinch. Normal look, squinching. Normal, squinched. Can you see the difference? What is squinching all about?
It's like a smile is not coming out or what?
Yeah, it's a bit of a smile. It's a bit, and it's almost smiling with your eyes. It makes you look a little bit kinder, a little bit more engaged, a little bit more focused, a little less boring. So it's really important.
Is that squinching or squinting?
Squinching, not squinting. Not squinting, squinching. So that's what you need to tell your photographer. Then, in terms of your face, you do not want not to smile. You have to smile. But there's a difference. You have to smile with your teeth visible. Don't open your mouth too wide. What you want is exactly that. And you want to define your jawline. How do you define your jawline? Make it protrude a little bit. Again, it makes you look a little bit more focused, a little bit more prominent. Your LinkedIn profile picture can make or break your first impression. That's really what it does. And then you don't want to zoom in or zoom out. You want to obviously wear professional dress, professional attire, and you want to have a headshot. So it's really important for you to make the time, energy, money available to have a professional LinkedIn profile picture. And it's very important you do it in a day that you feel good, that your energy is high, obviously. Then also your LinkedIn background picture, your LinkedIn background banner has to communicate the industry you're in, or your business, or your brand. It has to talk to me. So on my site, I've got a number of predefined background pictures. You can go there, you can download them. So this is what my profile looks like. Profile picture, the customized background banner, and then we've got to talk about your headline. Now, what does everybody do in the headline? Most everybody just puts in their title. But your title means nothing to me. Whether you're a chief financial officer, a marketing officer, whatever, it means doesn't tell me what you can do for me. And there are three options depending on where you are at in your career. And I'm going to leave you with this. There's more information in the book. but you must make up your mind what option is best for you, for your brand, for your personal brand. Option A is a results declaration. If you have a major achievement in your career that you would like to communicate prominently on LinkedIn, because every time you interact on LinkedIn, people see three things. They see your picture, they see your name, and they see your headline. That's how important. And you've got 120 characters for this headline. A results declaration works like this. You say, I helped target market to achieve specific benefit through a unique methodology. So I had this for a while. It worked really well. It got a lot of people engaging with me. Helped the client grow his business 10x from 6 million to 60 million US through ideas management and the disruptive innovation blueprints. That is a results declaration. If you've got a main achievement, a specific measurable achievement, please do use this. Alternatively, you can use the value proposition, which is very similar, where you say, I help target market to achieve benefit through methodology. Now, I had this for a number of years. In my case, this was reading enabling executives to generate referral clients on LinkedIn through the reciprocation marketing method, the value proposition. Option B. Option C is positioning as a thought leader. And this is a little bit more difficult because what you need to do here, you need to tell me what is your current role in terms of your client focus, what is your future role in terms of benefits, and what are your credentials, media, clients. So currently that is really where I have progressed in terms of a thought leader, as you can see here in my headline. So this is the latest look of your LinkedIn profile. Microsoft bought LinkedIn last year for 26 billion US, their biggest acquisition ever. They've done wonders to make LinkedIn a lot more engaging, a lot more productive. This is the latest look. This is what your link, this is the first thing that people see when they look at your LinkedIn profile. Again, your picture, your banner, and your headline. Okay, so the next step is really what you also need to do. You need to grow your network. There's a number on LinkedIn that is really important in terms of members, in terms of connections, which is 500 members, 500 connections. Because at 500 connections, LinkedIn cuts off the display. It just shows 500 plus. People take you a lot more serious when you have 500 plus.
Can I just ask?
Sure.
Let's say your view in terms of the role that LinkedIn plays. Is it global or is it focused on, let's say, the local South African market?
Well, it's a global network.
Yes, I realize that, but
Yeah.
how big is the role that it plays locally?
Locally, it's big. It's, as I said, 5.2 million members. It's especially in professional services, in finance, and even in mining. You see, you need to, when you build your network, the way it works best initially, you have to keep it local. Because then obviously people sort of know you, you have certain commonalities, you have to always start off your network locally. There is a functionality on LinkedIn where you can import your email contacts and you can sync your email contacts and send them out in invites, basically in one fell swoop. So you can connect to all the people that are on your email, on your business email. That's going to help you a lot. So what you really want to do, this step 1 to 3 is really all about positioning on LinkedIn, building your brand on LinkedIn, growing your network. Steps 4 to 7, just to give you a heads up, is then all about building, and this is why I call it co-creating your future, building your proprietary network. So what you do now, you set up a leadership platform, not on LinkedIn, off LinkedIn, which is its own website. You go out and interview industry leaders on their insights into the future of, let's say, the future of banking. You then profile these industry experts on the sites, on the future banking, for example, and across social media. That's what I do with my leaders. So I publish them on LinkedIn, I publish them on the website, and then I share it across the top 10 social media platforms, which obviously gives them fantastic returns in terms of personal branding. I then turn these interviews into a book. Once a year, I publish a Future of Leadership book. and then once a year I host the Future of Leadership Summit. And then you can use your own network, and this already starts working very well when you have 50 business leaders in your network. 100 business. I've done now about 150. It works really well because now you can co-create. Now you can co-create solutions for the future of your industry because you've got the experts on your platform. Yes, Andre?
You've just typically defined what the vision is behind this Speaker's Corner event.
Okay.
Getting people like yourselves in to share great insights. The problem is I notice vacant chairs. So the first thing is what can we do to improve that? Obviously, if we can pull in more of the speaker's own contacts, possibly. But what do you suggest is the next step for this? How do we, this is our third event, how do we keep that network going of future leaders and people of influence like yourself?
In terms of attendance, in terms of getting more people.
In terms of growing the idea behind this, because typically what you've identified there is what this Speaker's Corner is all about. It's about branding individuals and co-branding, and obviously giving the Institute of Bankers, in a sense, an experience out there for members. But we need to, I get the impression, be a little bit more dynamic in our approach.
Right.
We get the speakers, we get the people with enthusiasm and passion. But then it seems to stop after that. You know, how do we maintain that momentum?
You see, what you need to do, the reason why this works really well is because you get people involved, you get them to co-create. So what I would suggest, I would look at co-creating the future of banking around this model. And then get people involved. And then literally, because then you can run innovation workshops. You can, everybody then has a part in co-creating the future of banking. And you can share valuable information. And you don't have to write the content all the time. I mean, there's so much information that you can get about the future of banking, the future of finance, and so on. Valuable information. So you can keep the network engaged. And every time they come, not only do they learn something, but they have a hand in co-creating the future. So we can discuss it. All right, well, thank you very much. If you're interested in the book, I've got a couple of copies here. Rita is for $195, can have it for $100. Or, obviously, please connect on LinkedIn, and we can chat further. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.